I didn't invite you here to embarrass me, Jason, yet here you are, doing it anyway. My father's voice cut through the room before I even reached the table, and every conversation around me slowly died as heads turned. I forced a small smile and said, "Good to see you too, Dad." Ryan leaned back in his chair, swirling his drink, smirking like he'd been waiting for this moment all night. "Look at you," Ryan said, eyes scanning my suit, "still pretending you belong." A few guests chuckled softly, trying not to be obvious, but I heard it. I always heard it. I pulled out a chair, sat down calmly and said, "I'm not pretending anything." My mother sighed, shaking her head. "Jason, please don't make this harder than it already is. Tonight is important." "Important for who?" I asked quietly. "For the family," she replied like I wasn't part of it. Marcus Reed leaned forward with a polite smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Jason, we've all heard about your adventures. Tough luck, I guess." I let out a slow breath. "You mean my business attempts?" Ryan laughed. "You mean your failures?" The word landed like a slap. I felt my chest tighten, but I kept my voice steady. "At least I tried." My father placed his glass down sharply. "Trying doesn't mean anything if you keep failing." I looked at him. "So what do you want from me?" "Results," he said instantly. "Something that proves you're not a liability." The word liability echoed in my head. I swallowed hard. "I'm still figuring things out." Ryan leaned closer. "At your age? That's kind of sad." More quiet laughter. I glanced around the table. Expensive suits. Polished smiles. Empty eyes. Then I looked at Emily, just hoping, she'd say something. She avoided my gaze. "Emily," I said softly, "say something." She hesitated, then said, "Jason, maybe they're just trying to help." My heart dropped. "Help?" I repeated. "By humiliating me?" She sighed. "You're being defensive." I let out a hollow laugh. "Of course I am." My father shook his head. "This is exactly the problem. You can't take criticism." "This isn't criticism," I said, my voice rising slightly. "This is public humiliation." "If you feel humiliated," Ryan said casually, "maybe that's because you know it's true." I clenched my fists under the table. "You don't know anything about what I've been through." "Then explain it," my father challenged. I opened my mouth, then closed it, because I knew it wouldn't matter. Nothing I said ever mattered here. Marcus leaned back. "Honestly, Robert, maybe Jason just isn't built for pressure." My father didn't even hesitate. "I've been thinking the same thing." That was it. That was the moment something inside me started breaking. "I'm your son," I said quietly. He looked at me completely calm. And I expected more. Silence. Heavy. Crushing. I looked at my mother. She said nothing. I looked at Ryan. He smirked. I looked at Emily. She looked away. I felt something sharp in my chest, like all the air had been ripped out of me. "So that's it?" I asked. "That's what you all think of me?" "We're just being honest," Emily said softly. I laughed again, but it sounded wrong. "Honest?" I repeated. "Right." I pushed my chair back slowly and stood up. "Where are you going?" my mother asked. I looked at her. "Somewhere I can breathe." Ryan shook his head. "Running away again. Classic." I turned to him. "No," I said, my voice steady now. "This time I'm leaving." My father frowned slightly. "Don't be dramatic." "I'm not," I replied. "I'm just done." I looked around the table one last time. I came here tonight thinking maybe things could change. No one responded. I thought maybe, just maybe, you'd see me differently. I shook my head. That was my mistake. Emily finally looked at me. "Jason, don't do this." I met her eyes. "You already did." She flinched. "I didn't mean." "It's fine," I interrupted. "Now I understand." My father crossed his arms. "And what exactly do you understand?" I took a slow breath. "That I've been wasting my time trying to earn something I was never going to get." "And what's that?" Ryan asked. I looked straight at him. "Respect." Silence again. But this time it felt different. Lighter. Like something had finally snapped into place inside me. I stepped back from the table. "You don't have to worry about me embarrassing you anymore," I said calmly. My father didn't reply. He just watched me, expression unreadable. I turned and walked away, hearing the faint murmur of voices starting again behind me. As I stepped outside, the cool Los Angeles night air hit my face, and for a second I just stood there, breathing. My hands were shaking. My chest hurt. But beneath all of it, there was something else. Something new. "I'm done," I whispered to myself. I walked down the steps, each one feeling heavier than the last but also freer. My phone buzzed. Emily calling. I stared at it for a moment, then declined. It buzzed again. I turned it off. No more, I said under my breath. I reached the street, looked back at the glowing mansion behind me, and felt a strange mix of pain and clarity. You wanted results, I said quietly, almost like my father could hear me. Fine. I clenched my jaw. I'll give you results. A car passed by, headlights cutting through the dark. I stood there, alone, with nothing but the weight of everything I'd just lost, and the faint, burning feeling of something I hadn't felt in a long time. Determination. I won't come back the same, I said. Next time, you won't be able to ignore me. I took one last look at the place I once called home, then turned away and started walking, not knowing where I was going but knowing one thing for sure. I wasn't coming back as the same man they humiliated tonight. I'm leaving Jason. I can't do this anymore. Emily Harper's voice came through my phone, calm but distant, like I was already a stranger. I leaned against the cold wall of my empty apartment and said, "So that's it? After everything?" She sighed softly. Jason Carter, things changed. That night, it showed me a lot. I let out a bitter laugh. Yeah, it showed me too. Silence filled the call for a few seconds. Then Emily Harper said, "I need stability. I can't keep waiting for you to figure things out." "So you're choosing them?" I asked quietly. "I'm choosing myself," Emily Harper replied. "Don't twist it." I closed my eyes, my chest tightening. "Right. Of course. I hope you understand someday," Emily Harper added. "I already do," I said. "You just didn't have the courage to stand with me." She didn't respond. The line went dead. I stared at my phone for a long moment before dropping it onto the couch. "Of course," I whispered to myself. "Why would anyone stay?" The apartment felt too quiet. Too empty. I walked into the kitchen, opened the fridge, and stared at nothing but a half-empty bottle of water. "Great," I muttered. My phone buzzed again. This time it was a message from my bank. I opened it slowly. Payment overdue. Balance low. I laughed under my breath. Perfect timing. Another message popped up. This one from my father. "Robert Carter. Effective immediately, all financial support is withdrawn. You need to learn responsibility." I stared at the message, reading it again and again. "Responsibility," I repeated. "That's rich." I typed back, then stopped. Deleted it. There was nothing left to say. Days passed, but they felt like one long blur. I stopped going out. I stopped answering calls. I stopped pretending I was okay. "You need to get up," I told myself one morning, staring at the ceiling. "What's the point?" Another voice answered inside me. I rolled over, pulling the blanket over my head. Hours went by. Maybe more. I didn't even check. Hunger came and went like a dull ache. I ignored it. "They were right," I whispered one night, sitting on the floor. "Maybe I really am nothing." The words hung in the air, heavier than anything else. I buried my face in my hands. "I tried," I said quietly. "I really did." My voice cracked, and for the first time in a long time, I didn't hold it in. I let it out. Why wasn't it enough? I asked no one. The silence answered me back. My phone buzzed again. I almost ignored it, but something made me pick it up. Unknown number. I stared at it for a second, then answered. "Yeah." "Jason Carter?" a familiar voice said. I frowned slightly. "Who is this?" "Daniel Hayes," he replied. "You remember me?" I blinked, trying to focus. "Daniel Hayes? From college?" "Yeah," Daniel Hayes said. "The same one who used to carry your group projects." I let out a weak laugh. "Yeah, I remember." "You sound like hell," Daniel Hayes said bluntly. "I feel worse," I replied. "Good," he said. "At least you're honest." I frowned. "What do you want?" "I'm outside," Daniel Hayes said. "Open the door." I froze. "What?" "Jason Carter," Daniel Hayes repeated. "Open the door." I pushed myself up slowly and walked to the entrance. When I opened it, Daniel Hayes stood there holding a bag. He looked at me for a second, then shook his head. "Wow," Daniel Hayes said. "You really let yourself go." "Nice to see you too," I muttered. Daniel Hayes walked in without asking and placed the bag on the table. "Sit," Daniel Hayes said. "What?" "Sit down," he repeated. I sat. He pulled out containers from the bag. The smell hit me instantly. Real food. Warm. Fresh. My stomach reacted before I could stop it. Daniel Hayes smirked slightly. "Yeah, I thought so." I didn't say anything. I just grabbed the food and started eating. Fast. Too fast. Slow down, Daniel Hayes said. You're not in a race. Feels like I am, I mumbled between bites. He watched me quietly for a moment. Then he said, So, you gonna tell me what happened? I stopped eating for a second. Does it matter? It does to me, Daniel Hayes replied. I looked at him, confused. Why? He shrugged. Because I know you. I shook my head. You don't. Then prove me wrong, Daniel Hayes said. I stared at the food in my hands. Then I sighed. They humiliated me, I said quietly. My own family. Daniel Hayes didn't interrupt. And Emily Harper? He asked after a moment. I laughed bitterly. Gone. Figures, Daniel Hayes muttered. So now what? I asked, looking at him. Now, Daniel Hayes said, leaning forward, you stop feeling sorry for yourself. I frowned. Excuse me? You heard me, Daniel Hayes said. You hit rock bottom. Congratulations. I stared at him. That's supposed to help? Yes, he replied. Because now you have nowhere to go but up. I shook my head. You don't understand. Then make me understand, Daniel Hayes challenged. I hesitated. Then I said, I lost everything. Daniel Hayes nodded slowly. Good. I blinked. Good? Yeah, he said. Because now you know exactly who was never yours to begin with. The words hit differently. I leaned back slightly. So what do I do? I asked. Daniel Hayes smiled faintly. You start again. With what? I said. Nothing. He pointed at me. With that. I looked down at my hands. Empty. That's not enough, I said. It is if you decide it is, Daniel Hayes replied. Silence filled the room again, but this time, it didn't feel as heavy. I took a slow breath. You really think I can fix this? Daniel Hayes didn't hesitate. I know you can. I looked at him, searching for doubt. There was none. For the first time in days, maybe longer, something inside me shifted. Not a big change. Not a sudden transformation. Just a small spark. Okay, I said quietly. Okay, Daniel Hayes repeated with a grin. And for the first time since that night, I didn't feel completely alone. Get up, Jason Carter. Today doesn't wait. Daniel Hayes pulled the curtain open, and sunlight hit my face harder than I expected. I groaned and covered my eyes. Daniel Hayes, what time is it? Early enough for excuses to die, Daniel Hayes replied. I sat up slowly, my head heavy but clearer than the past few days. I don't even know where to start, I muttered. Daniel Hayes tossed a shirt at me. Start by moving. I caught it and stared at him. Moving where? Anywhere that pays, Daniel Hayes said. I let out a dry laugh. That's inspiring. Reality is rarely inspiring, Daniel Hayes replied calmly. I stood up, looking at myself in the mirror. My face still looked tired, but something felt different. Jason Carter, I said quietly to my reflection. No more excuses. Daniel Hayes crossed his arms. Good. Now let's make that real. The first job I took was simple. Too simple. I stood outside a small warehouse, holding a clipboard someone had handed me. You're new? A man asked. Yeah, I replied. Name? Jason Carter. He nodded. Stack boxes. Don't complain. I almost laughed. That's it. That's it, he said. I stepped inside and started working. The boxes were heavier than I expected. My hands hurt after a few minutes. Sweat formed quickly. You slowing down already? The man shouted. No, I said, forcing myself to keep going. Inside, my pride screamed. This wasn't where I thought I'd be. Not after everything. But I kept moving. Keep going, I whispered to myself. Just keep going. Later that evening, I dropped onto the couch, exhausted. How was it? Daniel Hayes asked. Terrible, I replied. Good, Daniel Hayes said. I frowned. Why is that good? Because you didn't quit, Daniel Hayes answered. I stared at him for a second. That's a low bar. It's the only bar that matters right now, Daniel Hayes said. I leaned back, closing my eyes. I felt like nothing today. You felt like a beginner, Daniel Hayes corrected. I opened my eyes again. There's a difference? A big one, Daniel Hayes said. Days turned into a routine. Work. Sleep. Repeat. Each day felt slightly less painful. Slightly more normal. One afternoon, while delivering documents, I walked into a modern office building. Delivery? The receptionist asked. Yeah, I said. For Sophia Bennett. Wait there, she replied. I stood still, adjusting my jacket, trying not to look out of place. A few seconds later, a woman walked toward me. Sharp eyes. Calm expression. Jason Carter? Sophia Bennett asked. Yeah, I replied. That's me. She studied me for a moment. You don't look like a delivery guy. I smirked slightly. I get that a lot. Sophia Bennett crossed her arms. So what are you? I hesitated. Trying to figure that out. She tilted her head slightly. Honest answer. I handed her the documents. That's all I've got right now. She didn't take them immediately. Jason Carter. I've heard your name before. I tensed slightly. Probably not for the right reasons. Sophia Bennett finally took the papers. I don't care about reasons. I care about results. That line caught my attention. What kind of results? I asked. She smiled faintly. The kind you haven't shown yet. I felt a spark of irritation. You don't even know me. Then prove me wrong, Sophia Bennett said calmly. I stood there for a moment, unsure whether to walk away or say something. I'm working on it, I said finally. Sophia Bennett nodded slightly. Good. Because potential without action is useless. I let out a slow breath. You sound like someone who's seen a lot of failures. I have, Sophia Bennett replied. And I can tell the difference between someone who gave up and someone who hasn't decided yet. I looked at her more carefully now. And which one do you think I am? She met my eyes directly. Undecided. The word hit harder than I expected. I'm not done, I said quietly. Then stop acting like you are, Sophia Bennett replied. I left the building with her words echoing in my mind. Later that night, I sat across from Daniel Hayes again. So? Daniel Hayes asked. I met someone today, I said. Sophia Bennett. Daniel Hayes raised an eyebrow. And? She didn't treat me like a failure, I replied. She treated me like a problem that needs solving. Daniel Hayes smiled slightly. That's better. I leaned forward. She said I'm undecided. Are you? Daniel Hayes asked. I paused. Then I shook my head. No. Then what are you waiting for? Daniel Hayes pressed. I sat there thinking. Really thinking. For the first time in a long time, I wasn't thinking about what I lost. I was thinking about what I could build. I'm done reacting, I said slowly. I want control. Daniel Hayes nodded. Now you're talking. The next morning, I woke up before Daniel Hayes could even say anything. Already up? Daniel Hayes asked, surprised. Yeah, I replied. I've got work. He smiled. Look at you. I grabbed my jacket. This isn't enough, I said. I need more. You'll get there, Daniel Hayes replied. Just don't stop. I paused at the door. I won't. As I stepped outside, the air felt different. Not lighter. Not easier. Just clearer. Jason Carter, I said under my breath, you're not finished. And this time I believed it. You're late, Jason Carter. Sophia Bennett didn't even look up from her laptop when I walked into the small rented office space. I checked my watch and frowned. 3 minutes. 3 minutes is a habit, Sophia Bennett replied calmly. I closed the door behind me and took a seat. Won't happen again. She finally looked at me, studying my face. Good. Because this only works if you take it seriously. I leaned forward. I am taking it seriously. Then prove it, Sophia Bennett said, sliding a file across the table. What's this? I asked. A problem, she replied. Fix it. I opened the file, scanning through numbers and notes. This doesn't even look like a business yet. Exactly, Sophia Bennett said. That's where you come in. I exhaled slowly. You're asking me to build something from nothing. Yes, she said simply. I looked up at her. Why me? Sophia Bennett didn't hesitate. Because you have nothing left to lose. That answer stayed with me longer than I expected. The first few days were rough. Actually, rough wasn't even the right word. They were exhausting. This isn't working, I said one night, dropping my pen on the table. Sophia Bennett leaned back slightly. What isn't? All of it, I replied. The numbers don't make sense. The plan feels weak. The market is already crowded. Sophia Bennett crossed her arms. So quit. I blinked. What? Quit, she repeated. Go back to doing nothing. I'm sure that worked out great for you. I stared at her, annoyed. That's not fair. Neither is reality, Sophia Bennett said calmly. So what are you going to do? I looked back at the papers. Fix it, I muttered. Good, she said. Now start again. That became the pattern. Or, fail. Restart. Repeat. Some nights, I didn't even realize how late it had gotten until my phone buzzed. Jason Carter, you alive? Daniel Hayes's voice came through the call. Barely, I replied, rubbing my eyes. Good, Daniel Hayes said. That means you're still fighting. I leaned back in my chair. I don't know if this is worth it. It is, Daniel Hayes replied immediately. How do you know? I asked. Because you're not the same person who sat on that floor a few days ago, Daniel Hayes said. I paused. I still feel like that person sometimes. Feeling it and being it are different, Daniel Hayes said. Keep going. One evening I slammed my notebook shut. This is pointless, I said. Sophia Bennett looked up. What happened now? Everything, I replied. Nothing is clicking. I'm wasting time. Sophia Bennett stood up slowly and walked toward me. Look at me, she said. I did. You think success feels easy? She asked. No, I said. Then stop expecting it to, Sophia Bennett replied. I clenched my jaw. I'm trying. Trying isn't enough, she said. You need discipline. I exhaled sharply. I'm working every day. Working and improving are not the same, Sophia Bennett said. So improve. I stayed that night. Longer than usual. I went through every detail again. Every number. Every assumption. Every mistake. Jason Carter, I whispered to myself, figure it out. Hours passed. Then something small clicked. Just one thing. But it mattered. I grabbed my phone and called Sophia Bennett. You found something? She asked immediately. Yeah, I said. It's small, but it changes the structure. There was a brief pause. Good, Sophia Bennett said. Now build on it. I smiled slightly. You don't sound surprised. I'm not, she replied. The next morning, I walked into the office earlier than usual. Sophia Bennett raised an eyebrow. Impressive. Don't get used to it, I said. She smirked slightly. Too late. I sat down and opened my laptop. I fixed part of it, I said. Let's see, Sophia Bennett replied. I explained everything step by step. She listened without interrupting. When I finished, she nodded slowly. Not bad. I leaned back. That's it? Not bad. Do you want praise or progress? She asked. I sighed. Progress. Then keep going, Sophia Bennett said. Days turned into weeks. The work didn't get easier, but I got stronger. You look different, Daniel Hayes said one evening. Different how? I asked. Less lost, Daniel Hayes replied. I thought about that for a second. I don't feel less lost. You act like it, Daniel Hayes said. I smiled faintly. Maybe that's enough. One afternoon, Sophia Bennett placed a small document in front of me. What's this? I asked. Our first real step, she said. I looked at it carefully. It wasn't big. Not even close. But it was real. This is ours. I asked. Yes, Sophia Bennett replied. I let out a slow breath. We actually did something. We started something, she corrected. I nodded. Right. Later that night, I sat alone for a moment, staring at that document. Jason Carter, I said quietly, you built this. It wasn't much. But it was mine. No family name. No support. Just me. And for the first time, that felt enough. Jason Carter, you need to see this. Sophia Bennett turned the laptop toward me and I leaned in, squinting at the screen. What am I looking at? I asked. Traffic, Sophia Bennett said. Real traffic. I blinked. People are actually noticing? Not just noticing, Sophia Bennett replied, tapping the screen. They're responding. I stared at the numbers, my mind trying to catch up. This wasn't supposed to happen this fast. Nothing happens fast, Sophia Bennett said calmly. You just didn't see the build-up. I leaned back slowly. So this is real? This is the beginning, she corrected. I ran my hand through my hair, letting out a breath I didn't realize I was holding. Jason Carter, I muttered to myself, don't mess this up. Sophia Bennett raised an eyebrow. Talking to yourself now? Keeping myself grounded, I replied. She smirked slightly. Good. You'll need that. My phone buzzed on the table. I picked it up and frowned. Unknown number. Answer it, Sophia Bennett said. Why? I asked. Because opportunities don't always call twice, she replied. I hesitated, then pressed accept. Jason Carter speaking. A calm, confident voice responded, Olivia Brooks. I straightened slightly. I'm listening. Jason Carter, I've been reviewing your work, Olivia Brooks said. And? I asked carefully. And I'm interested, Olivia Brooks replied. My grip tightened around the phone. Interested in what exactly? In what you're building, Olivia Brooks said. And what you could turn it into. I exchanged a quick glance with Sophia Bennett. What are you suggesting? I asked. There was a brief pause. Then Olivia Brooks said, a meeting. The next day, I walked into a high-end office that felt nothing like the small space I had been working in. Relax, Sophia Bennett whispered. You belong here. Do I? I asked quietly. Act like it, Sophia Bennett replied. I nodded once and stepped forward. Olivia Brooks stood near the window, turning as I approached. Jason Carter, Olivia Brooks said with a small smile. Nice to finally meet. Likewise, I replied, keeping my tone steady. Olivia Brooks gestured toward a seat. Sit. I did. So, Olivia Brooks began, tell me why I shouldn't invest in you. I blinked. That's your opening question? Olivia Brooks nodded. I prefer honesty over performance. I leaned forward slightly. Then here's the honest answer. You shouldn't invest if you're looking for guarantees. Olivia Brooks watched me closely. And if I'm not? Then you should invest because I don't quit, I said. Sophia Bennett stayed silent, letting me speak. Olivia Brooks crossed her arms. Confidence is easy to fake. So test it, I replied. Olivia Brooks smiled faintly. I like that. I continued, Jason Carter didn't get here because everything worked. Jason Carter got here because nothing did, and still kept going. Olivia Brooks tapped her finger lightly against the table. And what happens when things fail again? They will, I said. But I'll adjust faster next time. There was a brief silence. Then Olivia Brooks nodded. Good answer. I exhaled slowly, keeping my expression controlled. Olivia Brooks leaned back. Here's what I see, Olivia Brooks said. I see someone underestimated. I see someone who had to rebuild from nothing. And I see someone who hasn't peaked yet. I didn't interrupt. That's rare, Olivia Brooks continued. And rare is valuable. My heart was beating faster now, but I kept my voice steady. So what's your decision? Olivia Brooks looked directly at me. I'm in. For a second I thought I misheard. You're serious? I asked. Olivia Brooks nodded. Very. Sophia Bennett finally spoke. On what terms? Olivia Brooks smiled slightly. Fair ones. I'm not here to control Jason Carter. I'm here to support growth. I looked at Sophia Bennett, then back at Olivia Brooks. Why me? I asked again. Olivia Brooks didn't hesitate. Because Jason Carter reminds me of something. What? I asked. The version of myself no one believed in, Olivia Brooks replied. That answer hit deeper than I expected. I nodded slowly. Then I won't waste that. Olivia Brooks stood up. I know. We shook hands and for a moment, everything felt different. Not easier, but stronger. Later that evening, I sat across from Daniel Hayes again. You look like someone who just changed his life, Daniel Hayes said. I smiled slightly. Maybe I did. What happened? Daniel Hayes asked. Olivia Brooks invested, I said. Daniel Hayes froze for a second. Wait, seriously? I nodded. Yeah. Daniel Hayes leaned back, letting out a low whistle. That's big. It is, I agreed. Daniel Hayes studied my face. You're different, Daniel Hayes said. How? I asked. You're not asking for permission anymore, Daniel Hayes replied. I thought about that. Maybe I never needed it. Exactly, Daniel Hayes said. I leaned forward, resting my elbows on the table. Jason Carter isn't weak, I said quietly. Jason Carter was just surrounded by people who couldn't see clearly. Daniel Hayes grinned. Now you're seeing clearly. I stood up, walking toward the window. The city lights stretched out in front of me, brighter than I remembered. This is just the start, I said. I know, Daniel Hayes replied. I looked at my reflection in the glass. Same face. Same name. But not the same man. Jason Carter, I said under my breath, you're not surviving anymore. This time. I'm building something real. Jason Carter, you're trending. Sophia Bennett turned the screen toward me and I leaned in, narrowing my eyes. That's not possible, I said. It is, Sophia Bennett replied. Multiple articles, business forums, investor mentions. People are talking. I stared at the headlines, my name sitting there like it belonged to someone else. Jason Carter, emerging entrepreneur, I read quietly. That doesn't sound real. It is real, Sophia Bennett said. You built it. I leaned back slowly, letting the moment settle. So this is what growth looks like. This is what consistency looks like, Sophia Bennett corrected. My phone buzzed again. Then again. Messages, emails, unknown numbers. You gonna answer any of those? Sophia Bennett asked. Not yet, I said. Why? Because for once I don't feel desperate, I replied. Sophia Bennett smiled slightly. Good. That means you're in control. I picked up my phone and scrolled through the notifications. Invitations. Offers. Requests. Jason Carter, I muttered, people actually want something from you now. Get used to it, Sophia Bennett said. Later that day, I sat across from Daniel Hayes, who was staring at me like he didn't recognize me. Say it, I said. You look expensive, Daniel Hayes replied. I laughed. That's new. No, Daniel Hayes said, shaking his head. You look sure. I paused for a moment. I feel different. Yeah, Daniel Hayes said. I can see that. I leaned forward. Everything is moving fast. That's because you stopped standing still, Daniel Hayes replied. Meanwhile, somewhere I hadn't stepped into again, my name was being spoken in a different tone. My phone buzzed again and this time I answered. Jason Carter speaking. A familiar voice responded, hesitant. Jason, it's Ryan Carter. I froze for a second, then leaned back in my chair. Ryan Carter, I repeated. Didn't expect that. There was a pause. Yeah, I figured. I smirked slightly. What do you want? I saw your name, Ryan Carter said. Everywhere. That happens, I replied calmly. So it's true? Ryan Carter asked. Depends what you're asking, I said. That you actually built something, Ryan Carter replied. I let out a small breath. Yeah, I did. Silence filled the line. Then Ryan Carter said, didn't think you had it in you. I smiled faintly. A lot of people didn't. I guess we were wrong, Ryan Carter muttered. Guess so, I replied. There was something different in his voice now. Not arrogance. Not confidence. Something closer to uncertainty. Things are complicated here, Ryan Carter added. I raised an eyebrow slightly. Complicated how? Business issues, Ryan Carter said vaguely. Nothing you'd care about. I leaned forward. Try me. He hesitated. Marcus Reed made some calls that didn't go as planned. I almost laughed. That's surprising. It's serious, Ryan Carter said. We're losing ground. I let the words sink in. For a moment I said nothing. Then I replied, sounds like you need better decisions. Ryan Carter didn't respond immediately. Yeah, he said finally. When the call ended, I stared at my phone for a second longer. Jason Carter, I whispered, things really changed. Sophia Bennett walked in, glancing at me. Who was that? Ryan Carter, I replied. She paused. And? They're struggling, I said simply. Sophia Bennett nodded slowly. Not surprising. You knew? I asked. I suspected, Sophia Bennett replied. Marcus Reed relies on control, not adaptability. I leaned back thinking. So while I was rebuilding, they were standing still. Exactly, Sophia Bennett said. Daniel Hayes called later that night. So I heard something interesting, Daniel Hayes said. What? I asked. Your family's business isn't doing so well, Daniel Hayes replied. I smirked slightly. News travels fast. How do you feel about that? Daniel Hayes asked. I thought about it for a moment. Really thought about it? Nothing, I said. Nothing? Daniel Hayes repeated. Yeah, I replied. I don't need to feel anything about it. There was a pause. Then Daniel Hayes laughed softly. That's growth. I stood up and walked toward the window, looking out at the city lights again. They didn't feel distant anymore. They felt reachable. Jason Carter, I said quietly, you're not chasing them anymore. My phone buzzed again. Another message. Another opportunity. Another reminder that everything had shifted. You gonna take that? Sophia Bennett asked from behind me. I glanced at the screen, then back at the city. Yeah, I said. But on my terms. The next few days moved fast. Meetings. Calls. Decisions. Every step forward felt controlled. Intentional. You've changed your pace, Sophia Bennett said during one meeting. I changed my mindset, I replied. That's why it works, she said. One evening I received another message. This time from Marcus Reed. I stared at it for a moment before opening it. We should talk, it read. I smiled faintly. Now, I said under my breath. I typed a reply, then paused. Deleted it. Not yet, I decided. I leaned back in my chair, closing my eyes for a second. I could still hear that dinner. Those voices. Those laughs. But they didn't hurt the same way anymore. They sounded distant. Wait. Jason Carter, I said quietly, you didn't fight them. I opened my eyes, looking at the reflection staring back at me in the glass. Calm. Focused. Unshaken. You outgrew them. You actually showed up. Ryan Carter's voice hit me the moment I stepped into the ballroom, but this time, it didn't land the same way. I adjusted my cuff slightly and replied, why wouldn't Jason Carter show up? Ryan Carter stared at me for a second longer than usual, eyes scanning my suit, my posture, my calm expression. You look different, Ryan Carter said. I smiled faintly. That's because Jason Carter is different. The room felt familiar, but the weight I used to carry inside it was gone. Conversations slowed as people noticed me. Not the old version. The one they remembered laughing at. Something else. Something they couldn't ignore. Jason. Linda Carter's voice was softer than I expected. I turned and saw her walking toward me, her expression uncertain. You're here, Linda Carter said. I am, I replied calmly. She hesitated. You look well. I nodded once. Jason Carter is doing well. She studied my face like she was trying to find something she recognized. We heard things, Linda Carter said carefully. News. Articles. That happens, I replied. Jason Carter has been busy. Robert Carter approached next, his presence still commanding, but something in his eyes had changed. Jason Carter, Robert Carter said. Father, I replied evenly. There was a brief silence between us. You've made progress, Robert Carter said. I tilted my head slightly. Progress? Yes, Robert Carter continued. Your name is being mentioned. I almost smiled. Jason Carter built something, I said. Without help. Robert Carter's jaw tightened slightly. I can see that. Ryan Carter stepped closer again. So what is this? Ryan Carter asked. A comeback story? I met his gaze. No, I said. Jason Carter doesn't come back to places Jason Carter outgrew. That line landed. I saw it in his eyes. For the first time, Ryan Carter didn't have a quick response. Emily Harper's voice came from behind me. Jason. I turned slowly. She looked almost the same but not quite. Emily Harper, I said. You look, she started then stopped. Successful? I finished for her. She gave a small awkward smile. Yeah. I nodded. Jason Carter is. There was a pause. I've been meaning to talk to you, Emily Harper said. I shook my head slightly. That time passed. Her expression fell. I made mistakes. Everyone does, I replied. But not everyone gets a second chance. Sophia Bennett stood at a distance, watching quietly. I didn't need her to step in. I didn't need anyone to step in. That was the difference. Robert Carter cleared his throat. Jason Carter, we should discuss this privately. I looked at him. There's nothing to discuss. There is, Robert Carter insisted. Family matters. I let out a slow breath. Jason Carter stopped confusing blood with respect. Silence fell between us again. Linda Carter looked down, her hands clasped together. We didn't mean for things to go that way, Linda Carter said softly. I glanced at her. Intent doesn't erase impact. Ryan Carter crossed his arms. You're acting like we did something unforgivable. I met his gaze. Jason Carter was humiliated in front of everyone in this exact kind of room. Ryan Carter shifted slightly. That was just, don't, I cut in calmly. Don't rewrite it now. The tension grew heavier, but I didn't feel it pressing on me anymore. I felt above it. Marcus Reed finally stepped forward, his usual confidence slightly cracked. Jason Carter, Marcus Reed said, impressive work. I looked at him. Marcus Reed. He smiled, but it didn't feel the same as before. We should talk business sometime. I tilted my head. Now? I asked. Marcus Reed hesitated. Soon. I gave a small nod. Maybe. Robert Carter spoke again, his tone quieter now. Jason Carter. I misjudged you. I studied him for a moment. Yes, I said simply. That word seemed to hit harder than any insult ever could. Linda Carter stepped closer. Can we fix this? She asked. I looked at her, really looked at her. For a second, I felt the past trying to pull at me. The memories. The expectations. Then I let it go. Jason Carter already fixed what needed fixing, I said. Just not this. Emily Harper's voice trembled slightly. Jason, please? I shook my head again. Jason Carter learned something important, I said. Walking away isn't losing. I turned slightly, glancing around the room. The same kind of people. The same kind of environment. But I didn't feel small here anymore. Sometimes, I continued, it's the only way to win. Ryan Carter let out a short breath. So that's it? Ryan Carter asked. You just come here to prove a point? I looked at him calmly. Jason Carter didn't come to prove anything. Then why are you here? He pressed. I held his gaze. To see if anything changed. There was silence. It didn't, I said. That was the truth. Not angry. Not loud. Just clear. Robert Carter nodded slowly, like he understood something too late. Linda Carter looked away. Emily Harper said nothing. Ryan Carter stayed quiet. Marcus Reed didn't smile anymore. I adjusted my jacket slightly and stepped back. Take care, I said. No one stopped me this time either. But this time it wasn't because I didn't matter. It was because they didn't know how to respond. As I walked toward the exit, I felt it clearly. Not anger. Not pain. Not even satisfaction. Just peace. Jason Carter, I said quietly to myself, you didn't need revenge. I stepped outside, the night air hitting my face again, but this time it felt lighter. You just needed to become someone they couldn't control. I'm proud of you, Jason Carter. Robert Carter's voice stopped me just as I reached the edge of the driveway. I didn't turn immediately. For a moment I just stood there, feeling the night air settle around me. Then I slowly looked back. That's new, I said calmly. Robert Carter stepped closer, his usual authority replaced by something unfamiliar. It's honest, Robert Carter replied. I studied his face. Where was that honesty before? Robert Carter didn't answer right away. I was wrong, Robert Carter said finally. The words hung there, heavy but quiet. Linda Carter walked up beside him, her expression softer than I had ever seen it. Jason, we didn't realize how much we hurt you, Linda Carter said. I tilted my head slightly. You didn't realize? I asked. Or you didn't care enough to notice? Linda Carter flinched slightly. That's not fair, Linda Carter said. It's accurate, I replied. Silence followed. Not the suffocating silence I used to feel. Just stillness. Ryan Carter stayed a few steps behind, hands in his pockets. Jason Carter, things got out of hand, Ryan Carter said. I glanced at him briefly. That's one way to describe it, I said. Ryan Carter let out a breath. Look, I'm not good at this, Ryan Carter admitted. Clearly, I replied. That almost made him smile, but it faded quickly. We didn't expect you to turn things around like this, Ryan Carter added. I met his gaze. That's the problem, I said. None of you expected anything from Jason Carter. Emily Harper's voice came softly from behind. Jason? I closed my eyes for a second, then opened them again before turning. Emily Harper, I said. She stepped closer, her expression filled with something I hadn't seen before. Regret. I've been wanting to talk to you, Emily Harper said. You already said that, I replied. And I meant it, she insisted. I nodded once. Go ahead. Emily Harper hesitated, then spoke. I made a mistake, Emily Harper said. I walked away when you needed me the most. I didn't interrupt. I thought I was choosing stability, Emily Harper continued. But I was just choosing what felt easy. I folded my arms slightly. And now? I asked. Now I see what I lost, Emily Harper said. I held her gaze for a moment. You didn't lose Jason Carter, I said quietly. You gave Jason Carter up. That landed. I saw it in her eyes. I know I don't deserve another chance, Emily Harper said softly. But I had to say it. I nodded slightly. You did, I replied. And now it's done. She looked like she wanted to say more, but she didn't. That was enough. Robert Carter cleared his throat again. Jason Carter, we want to fix this, Robert Carter said. I looked at all of them. The same people who once made me feel small. Now standing there, unsure of what to say. Fix what? I asked. Our relationship, Linda Carter replied quickly. I let out a slow breath. You can't fix something you never built properly, I said. Ryan Carter shifted his weight. So that's it? You just walk away? Ryan Carter asked. I looked at him calmly. Jason Carter already walked away, I said. Tonight was just confirmation. Robert Carter stepped forward again. We can do better, Robert Carter said. I nodded slightly. Maybe you can, I replied. But Jason Carter doesn't need you to anymore. The words felt final. Not harsh. Not angry. Just true. Linda Carter's eyes filled slightly. Jason, please don't shut us out completely, Linda Carter said. I paused for a moment, considering that. Jason Carter isn't shutting anyone out, I said. Jason Carter is just not letting anyone control what comes next. There was a difference, and they could feel it. Emily Harper took a small step back. Ryan Carter looked down. Robert Carter stayed still. Linda Carter wiped her eyes quietly. I adjusted my jacket again, more out of habit than anything else. Take care of yourselves, I said. Jason, Robert Carter started, but I raised my hand slightly. No, I said calmly. This is where it ends. Silence followed. But this time it didn't feel heavy. It felt complete. I turned and walked away, not rushing, not hesitating. Just moving forward. Each step felt lighter than the last. Jason Carter, I said quietly to myself, you finally understand. I reached the street, the city lights stretching ahead of me, brighter than ever. I don't need approval, I continued. I took a deep breath. I don't need validation. I looked ahead, my reflection faintly visible in a passing car window. Come. Steady. Oh. I needed growth. A small smile formed on my face. Not forced. Not fake. Just real. And Jason Carter got it. I started walking again, not looking back this time. Because there was nothing left behind that I needed to carry anymore. Only what I chose to build ahead. And for the first time, I'm stronger than ever.